A lot has changed overnight, but Buick and GMC's commitment to you remains the same. We understand you want to feel safe, so we're offering current owners complimentary OnStar Crisis Assist services. Should you need a vehicle, we're offering 0% financing for up to 84 months with deferred payment options for 120 days. Plus, you may have the option to shop online and take delivery at home. Visit our websites for the help you need.
Visit AutoSpot GMC today.
Hello, my name is Mark Berry. I'm a 4-year Air Force veteran and close to 20 years of DoD fire service. Last year, June of 2019, we happened to have one of the hardest parts of our lives happen. We had a medical with me, ended up with massive hemoptysis. And during that time, while I was in the medically induced coma, my wife frantically looked for help. She found the congressman's office, which responded extremely quickly. They found out that I was improperly coded in the VA and quickly helped to fix it, which allowed me to get a medical flight to UCLA and get the medical treatment I needed. And that's why I'm here today.
I just want to say to anyone out there, if you have any federal issues, please visit your congressman's office to see what resources are available.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the Office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Hi, I'm Little Mr. God 2019. I just want all of the sailors in the USS TR to know that I'm thinking and praying for you. Thank you. Bye.
Hafidi, my name is Kai, and on behalf of the Island Cuisine family, I would like to send out a great big Undunkulunesi Zuwas Maasi. Thank you to all USS Theodore Roosevelt sailors for all that you do. We wish and send all prayers for a speedy recovery, and we will keep you all in our thoughts. Thank you for your service. God bless.
Hafide, my family and I extend our deepest condolences to the friends, family, shipmates of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, sailor who passed away recently. May we join the people of Guam in extending our prayers and our support, and may God continue to provide comfort and strength during this very difficult time. Sidus Masi.
Hafide, I'm Jim Moylan, and I want to extend my condolences to the family members and the loved ones of Chief Petty Officer Charles Tracker Jr., who had passed and was amongst those who tested positive for the coronavirus on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. I understand the hardship one experiences while serving our country. I appreciate the time and effort our military members put in to protect our country and her borders and the sacrifices they made, most especially at a time like this with the extremities of COVID-19, where we all are in a fight not many have experienced before. To all those affected by this, let's keep them in our thoughts and prayers. We are in this fight together, and we will weather this storm together. Stay safe and protected, and may God bless the sailors of the USS Theodore Roosevelt, and God bless Guam.
Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using Island Cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
Buenas everything, buenas Marianas and Micronesia. I'm Troy Torres. Thank you so much to our viewers throughout the Mariana Islands, in the Federated States of Micronesia, the Republic of Palau, the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and throughout the world. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, we weren't gonna go live, but we got like a whole slew of news that just came in at the end of the day, so we decided it was important to bring it to you. I am wearing my do not have the in hookup hat because my hair is Palauan ferocious. Yeah, and yes, I am half Palauan, so I can say that, but look at it. It's very poof. It's very big, my hair. Oh my God. Look at that. Oh my Jesus. Forgive us our sins and save us from the fires of lose hell. I want to start. I want to start the show with, you know, it's not all the time that we have positive stuff to bring out, but there is a local, and I'm going to say up and coming dancer, recording artist, or whatever you want to call it. Definitely an artist. He goes by the name Chubby Robbie on TikTok. And I've seen two, now after tonight, I've seen 3 of his TikTok things. And it's been going around social media, it's been spread on Facebook and WhatsApp and everything. I love this guy. I wanna meet him. I know just without even meeting him yet or having any conversation that this guy has the best freaking gossip in the Marianas. And this is the kind of guy that you wanna sit down and gossip with, and you don't want him to gossip about you. So go ahead, let's cast to my screen for video number 1. It's only 11 seconds.
My loneliness is killing me, and I must confess that I still believe.
I love him so much. Okay, that's one. And then the first one that we've ever seen was this one. Oh my God, I just love this so much. Oh my God, I love this. He's got this guy can dance. So my sister is, she had a career professionally dancing, like all over the place, right? And she would always say that there are some people who are just born with that talent. They just, and I think, and I'm an amateur, whatever. I'm not even a good dancer or anything, unless I'm high. But this dude looks like he was born to dance, and obviously an entertainer. But then there's this one. There's this one. I just love this so much. I want this guy to keep producing this stuff. He needs to open a dance studio, first of all. He needs to open a dance studio. He needs to be like a teacher to other kids who have talent, that he can, like, you know, hone their talents and their skills. This guy is super funny, and I want to meet him like pronto. So remember the Fireman song? There was an original Fireman song. It was not Boca Vidumaigo, it was Boca Kichimaigo. Remember that? Right. And the firemen on Guam were up in freaking arms. So the artist who produced that song produced a second version, and it was the Boca Vidumaigo. And then there was a refrain that they added, or like not a refrain, but there was an extra part to the song they added, and it was in English. So it goes something like, in no matter what department in the government of Guam today. Well, what are the words? There will always be something about complaints.
Right.
There will, oh man, I wish, I just sang it earlier. I remembered the words, and it was the exact words, and I forgot it.
I forget, Joe.
No matter what department in the government of Guam today,
Something they all complain.
you can never satisfy the public. They will always complain away. That's the worst. And it was because there was this huge backlash by the fire guys. They were like, hey, wow, Chalu, why did you make that song about us? We're the frontliners. We're the people, you call us, you call 911, we're the medics who come and save your lives, and then you're going to make that song that says that we don't do anything but eat, kichi, and sleep. Our wives are listening to that song. Our moms are listening to that song. So the artists were like, you know what, let's apply this to all Gov Guam employees. And not just firefighters, but it doesn't matter. In every government of Guam agency, there's going to be people like that. And you know what? In every Gov Guam agency, there's going to be people who complain. And you can never satisfy those people. And I feel like Governor Lulian Guerrero is just asking me and the artist who made the Fireman song to make a song about her after she just gave a big F you to the government of Guam workforce today when the governor decided that she was going to veto a bill that has to do with hazard pay. And in the bill, it reinforces a provision of the government of Guam personnel rules and regulations that makes, people were complaining about that picture yesterday, Chelo. They were like, please take off that picture. There's this provision in the government of Guam rules and regulations that has been there for decades that says whenever there's an emergency activation, the government of Guam workers who work during that emergency activation are entitled to double pay. So if you make $20 an hour for the hours that you work during an emergency, you're going to get paid $40 an hour. And this is not even taking into consideration hazard pay, night differential, and all that stuff, right? For years and years and years, as long as there's a federal disaster declaration and FEMA is reimbursing the funds, the emergency rate of pay is double pay. So it's in the personnel rules and regulations in this bill number 326 by Vice Speaker Selena Nelson that dealt mainly with hazard pay. The legislature made an amendment that reinforced this one provision. I think it's rule 8.04 or 8.40 or something in the personnel rules and regulations that says they shall be paid double pay. It is an existing entitlement with or without Bill 326 being signed into law. But what the news here is not that the bill was vetoed, it's what the governor says in her veto message. And she makes it very clear that she ain't gonna pay that double pay to the frontliners who are working in this emergency, which is just plain and simple illegal. The government has been taken to court for far less than this, and the government has lost class action suits for far less clear abrogations of Guam law and the personnel rules and regulations. This is not just some simple rule. This is a contractual payroll obligation that the governor has to pay GovGuam employees who've been working during this emergency. And the CCU didn't make it easy for the governor. The CCU is doing it right. And I keep forgetting to say this. I keep forgetting to say that I really want, hats off, but not right now because of my hair, but hats off to the men and women of GPA and GWA, because if there's been any agency or group of agencies in the government of Guam, aside from GPA, GWA, and GCC, who have really responded to their constituents and their customers, it's been those three agencies. GCC, of course, they're giving the money to the kids or to the students. But with GPA and GWA, they've held back on disconnecting any accounts. They decided that when this emergency is over, people are going to have 6 months to pay their arrears. I mean, they've really, they've gone the extra mile for their customers in understanding what this pandemic is causing to the people. And on top of that, the men and women of GPA and GWA who are working during this emergency are getting paid that double rate of pay. So CCU is following the law and following the government of Guam personnel rules and regulations. The governor is not. We've spoken to police officers, firemen, people who work at Rev and Tax and DOA, and then there are people who in each government of Guam agency who are working because of the emergency. They have not been getting the double rate of pay that they should be getting. And according to the governor's veto message on Bill 326, the hazard pay bill, they ain't gonna get it. And people, you know what people this is, and I saw in the comments, someone said this is a time for people to get loud. I think it was Jesse Mendiola. Oh, by the way, Jesse, congratulations on your grandson. This is the time for people to get loud about it's not even misfortune, the injustice being perpetrated upon them by the governor. And this is a big block of people who've been working. Think about the nurses who've been risking life and limb, the doctors under the government of Guam who've been risking life and limb. They're not getting this double rate of pay, this emergency pay that is not just, it's not something that they are entitled to as a result of this bill that was vetoed. It's an existing entitlement. All the legislature was doing was reinforcing it. But then the governor makes it very clear in her veto message that she's not going to enforce it. She's not going to pay that double pay. This is the time, Guam employees, to say something against the governor and tell her exactly how you feel about the decision that she's made. Because if this was me working in this emergency, maybe right now, actually it's been a few weeks in, yeah, I would be pissed. I would be pissed if I understood that that was my entitlement as an employee working during this emergency, a lot of times not getting sleep, definitely exposing myself to the dangers of this virus and as being part of this emergency activation. I would be pissed if the governor said, oh, you know what, we're just not going to pay that, especially because it is an entitlement. Now, the governor is saying that it's going to cost $36 million and that she's not sure if FEMA will reimburse it. If we had a smarter governor, or at least one who would take the time to read the books that already exist on emergency activations where there is a federal disaster a federal emergency that's been declared, she would know that this is fully reimbursable by FEMA, and this is exactly what you're supposed to do. And this whole, it's gonna cost $36 million, this emergency is gonna cost something. It's gonna cost something, and she should be planning for that, and she should be cutting the budget elsewhere so that she can afford the cost of this emergency. And there is something to be said about the cost of this emergency. Because the other thing that the governor vetoed today is Bill 333 by Senator Therese Terlahi, which does, among other things, demand accountability and transparency in the use of these federal funds. And it creates timelines for the governor to pick up the pace on the payments of federal cash relief and unemployment assistance checks, those weekly $945 checks. The governor, in the very beginning, when the Federal CARES Act passed, she was like, we got this. Just give us 2 to 3 weeks. And then she said, yeah, it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. And now she's saying end of May, maybe. In the meantime, Congressman Michael St. Nicholas was like, hey, Governor, I got a great idea. Why don't you leverage this money so that you can pay all of the cash relief now and at least a fraction of the weekly unemployment checks as you go along. It was a very creative, very brilliantly done idea. The governor rejected it. Many senators have come forward with local economic relief programs for the people. And the governor said, no, I got this, 2 to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, end of May. She's been pushing that timeline down further and further and further so that now we have no idea when the people are gonna get their cash relief. And it's amazing. It's amazing because once again, the government of Guam as an entity is getting all of this cash, already got its cash, so that it can operate and do all the things that the governor wants to do. And in correspondence after correspondence among or between the governor and senators who've been demanding accountability and transparency, Senator Therese Sherlocki, the Speaker, Senator Jim Moylan, Senator Tello Tidegui, Congressman Michael Nicholas, the governor pushes back and says, I don't need that. I don't need to respond to, I don't need to account for this funding. So you know what we found out, because anytime an executive pushes back and says, you don't need to look at the books, I don't need you guys looking anywhere, we get suspicious here at Kandit. And so we did some digging. And in a Freedom of Information Act response that came from Chuck Estevez, the Administrator of Civil Defense, we found out that at $100 a night for a contractual period of 60 days, the government of Guam has reserved 388 regular rooms of the Pacific Star Hotel. And then in an invoice that's separate, there's a billing for 389 rooms, an extra room. And so if you guys, when this feed is done, go to our website and sign up on our website and go to www.candidnews.com. News has just broken by Jacob Nakamura about what that one extra room is about. Let's go. Go ahead and cast on my screen, Shalu. If you go to candidnews.com, it's the very first story. It was published just a few seconds ago. Governor's Chief of Staff staying in hotel suite at taxpayers' expense. Governor Lulian Guerrero's Chief of Staff, Tony Babauta, has helped himself to a lavish suite at the Pacific Star Hotel, where travelers coming to Guam are being temporarily housed for quarantine purposes. Your tax dollars are paying for his extravagant hotel accommodations. This is the presidential suite. That's that one extra room that we were invoiced for. High-placed Adelup sources confirm that Mr. Babauta has been staying at the Pacific Star and gets 3 meals a day provided to him as well. One source defended the actions of the governor's chief of staff, indicating that GovGuam had to pay for the rooms in block. So they are already paid for. Yet GovGuam is paying for regular rooms at a rate of $100 a night to include 3 meals a day. The massive suite Mr. Babauta is staying in could be seen as an in-kind gift to Mr. Babauta, who worked on securing the contract for the hotel, along with Governor's legal counsel, Hai Hyun. Further, it is against local and federal laws for these types of gratuities to be given in exchange for government contracts. The meals and the linen services are also being paid for by the government of Guam taxpayers. The cost for his extravagant suite, along with the meals and linen services, will not be reimbursed by FEMA, according to documents Kandit received from Homeland Security via Freedom of Information request. Those documents reveal that even BBMR Director Lester Carlson was shocked by the news that quarantine passengers had been moved to the Pacific Star from their previous facility in Samuning. That previous hotel only had regular rooms and no presidential suites. So here are the designation letters by the governor and Linda DeNorsi to Mr. Pothin of Pacific Star Hotel and Spa. In an email to Adelup, Homeland, BBMR, and other government officials, Tony Babauta notifies them that the Pacific Star will be utilized as a quarantine facility and that they have 388 rooms available. So here's that email. Lester Carlson, BBMR Director, Ed Byrne, Director of Administration, Adjutant General Esther Agigi, Sophia Diaz, Assistant Legal Counsel to the Governor, Hai Hyun, Governor's Legal Counsel and son-in-law, and Rebecca Respicio, who's in charge of the quarantine facilities. You'll see that number 2, Pacific Star, total rooms 388, occupied 82, et cetera, et cetera. However, an invoice from Pacific Star adds 1 additional room, bringing the total amount to 389. That's the one room that we're being charged for Tony Babauta to stay in through a contract that he helped to negotiate. This is beyond a conflict of interest. This is a tit for tat, a quid pro quo, pay for play. People are hurting. They can't pay their rent. They can't even afford to feed their families, and the governor's chief of staff is using our tax dollars to stay in their suite, a security guard assigned to the quarantine site said. Quote, I mean, no offense because the chief of staff is a nice guy, but this is a slap in the face to our people who are suffering, unquote. The guard mentioned that Mr. Babalta once joked that he preferred the Pacific Star because the underground parking is extremely confidential and he can use the elevators there at the basement parking area to go to his suite. Quote, it's really secretive and all, and that makes me think even more he knows he isn't supposed to be doing this, the worker said. Kandit News is awaiting the results of a FOIA request from Adelup regarding any and all emails and documents pertaining to the hotels contracted by Mr. Babalta and Hai Hyun on behalf of the government. Spokeswoman Janela Carrera has asked for a 10-day extension to the request to give their office more time to compile their documents. It is important to note that Tony Babalta is the governor's authorized representative, or GAR, responsible for all use of federal and local funds in this emergency. And in this designation signed by the governor, this is a very important document that at the beginning of terms and at the beginning of emergencies, governors send over to FEMA designating a governor's authorized representative. And this is what they do. This GAR is empowered to execute on behalf of the territory all necessary documents for federal assistance, including approval of subawards and certification of claims for public assistance. This is a very powerful position that can land people in jail very quickly for the misuse of federal funds. And it's been done before, not just in Guam, but also in jurisdictions throughout the country. The governor's authorized representative is basically the Department of Administration of the execution of federal funds for an emergency activation. The fact that Tony Babalta is personally benefiting from the use of federal funds is a very big deal. And as that worker said, and thank you, Jacob Neckermore, for putting that story together. He's been working on it all day, and we finally got some confirmations. But as that worker who Jacob interviewed said, there are people who are going hungry right now. There are people who are worried about the rent, who unfortunately their landlord is someone like Maria Miller, who is barking down their throats about when are you going to pay the rent. There are people who have no idea what they're going to do to support their families now that their savings are used up. And there are people who never had savings to begin with at the start of this pandemic, who don't have public assistance and cannot afford food. And you see those not chain messages, but that one letter that people post up on their Facebook posts, like no questions asked. If you need any food, it goes without saying, I'm a human being, I can support. That's why so many people are posting that up, because they understand that there are a lot of people who don't have food. And they don't have food stamps that the governor says, why don't you just go and get food stamps? Well, now we understand that the reason that the governor is so cavalier about the situation that people are in is because her administration officials are benefiting off of the public dime during this emergency. And it's disgusting and it's despicable. And this is why our senators need to step it up and take their role seriously, not just in the oversight of funding, but in restricting, not enhancing, but restricting the governor's use of resources during this time. Because senators, you have to understand, and if you don't belong in that job. If you do not know the answers about our budget, and you're not able to compute based on historical trends, what cash flow should be over the next few months, you should not be a senator. Give it up for someone else to take your place and do the job. But you guys need to go into session right away and cut the budget, restrict the governor's use of cash resources, and demand that she report everything that she's doing. Because there's a lot of stuff and you know what? We don't like doing all of this work. We don't like being consumed with these stories of the governor's chief of staff taking a presidential suite at Pacific Star Hotel, because that's your job, senators. You're supposed to be finding out about this stuff, not us. If the media has to find it, you've failed at your jobs, senators. You need to get your butts into session and do something about the governor and her staff raping and pillaging the finances and the moral fiber of the people of Guam. For crying out loud. What are your comments? Let's see what your comments are. Oh, hi, everybody. Hi, everything. Nyenyen says, Senator's not going to do anything. They're not going to go against a Democrat governor. You know what? They have to, because it's their job. Lester Lopez, to all people who voted for her, what were you thinking? Sorry. Sorry, Lester. I couldn't vote for Ray. Martina Cruz says, crime is on the rise. What can the governor do? What does she want to do? Honestly, like Johnny asked me, why is the governor doing this? And a lot of times I don't have an answer for her or for Jacob or for Eric, because I am, first of all, not surprised at the crimes being committed by the government. I'm just not surprised at all anymore. I am confused about what the governor's message is. I'm confused about what her end game is politically, because it's just sort of all over the place. It's like she has a bunch of idiots running ad loop. And with those two things, with those two factors, it's very hard to make sense out of anything, to see any reason behind anything, except that there are some people on the take, and that, if a decision is made that does not seem very well thought out, either it was made because someone wasn't thinking and there's a gross level of incompetence going on, or there is an ulterior motive, or because trying to reach the goal of the ulterior motive is taking so much time, there just ain't enough time to think things through in a competent way for all the other stuff. When we talk about reopening the island based on the data, based on the trends, there isn't a single thing that our government tells us these days that I believe and that I trust. I do not believe whatsoever that there are no more infections. I do not believe that the tests that they are conducting are accurate, because the governor's already told us they're going to continue to insert the swabs diluted in a 1 milliliter solution against what Abbott Laboratories has told them to do. Because I don't believe the data coming out of the government of Guam, I would rather trust how smart people are, or people's desire to live and to be healthy and to make decisions that are good for themselves. This governor should just reopen this darn island and leave it to the people to make decisions for themselves, because it makes no sense whatsoever to leave the island closed based on information that I don't even think she's getting right. Sometimes I think she's even lying about it. And so that brings us to this whole notion, or this whole issue about the Catholic Church. And yesterday, Johnny and I talked about, and we played a portion of a sermon by Father Paul Guffigan, who's the pastor of the Santa Lourdes, or Our Lady of Lourdes Church in Jigo. And Father Paul Guffigan is not a very political person. He is not one who speaks out on political matters, like really at all. He's the vicar for the liturgy for the Archdiocese, which is a very powerful position, and he's the chairman of the Liturgical Commission. And on behalf of the Liturgical Commission, he sent a proposal to Linda DeNorsi, the public health director, on April 22nd, asking if, dear government, can you allow us to reopen? And these are the steps that we're going to take to keep people safe. And they go as far. So part of the proposal is, let us do Sunday Mass. What we'll do is we'll have people stay in their cars. It'll be in the parking lots of the churches. There will be a loudspeaker. And when it comes time to communion, people will not be lining up to get the communion. The priests and the Eucharistic ministers will go to each car and administer the host. We'll wear masks and gloves, and we'll spray our hands and all that all the time. And And we want to have limited party baptisms, limited party weddings, things like that. And it makes a lot of sense. And when you think about what he's asking for, the precautionary measures that are in place are better than the precautionary measures that are in place at grocery stores, at hardware stores, at governor's staff parties that are allowed. You know? Less risk of exposure by a plan that the Catholic Church wants to do and asked Linda DeNorsi for permission to do on April 22nd. 2 days later, on April 24th, Linda DeNorsi writes back. She doesn't address any of the proposal points. She just says, no, we do not support nor do we approve the implementation of this plan. It gives no reason. Just says, no, not going to do it. Not going to do it. And so Father Paul Goffigan this past Sunday issued a sermon and stepped out of his zone and made a very fiery and politically charged plea, not to the governor, but to the Catholic faithful, to please write to the governor, write to the legislature, bombard them with your requests to allow the church to partially open in this way. And he even says, he even took the Lord's name in vain, eh? I'm a sinner too, Father Pali. I gotta go confession whenever you open that up. But he said, they allowed Home Depot to open for God's sake, is what he said. And he's got a really good point. The guy's got a very good point. And so the speed at which the Director of Public Health, very likely, at the behest of the governor, denying this request and not giving reasons for the denial, based on the proposals that Father Paul gave, made us wonder, what in the world is going on here? Why did they do that? And if you read the story, you can come up with your own conclusions, but read the story on www.kanditnews.com. It's also on our Facebook page. You can see it there. But people, Candidland, friends, familia ko, our government is too much. I don't even remember. I can't remember the first wrong thing that they did, because that's how many missteps have happened since this public health emergency started. That so many things have happened that were done in the dark and had to be brought into the light by the media, sometimes by senators, many times by Congressman Mike Nicholas, under what we now have as a regime of an administration that has become very powerful because the legislature has allowed this regime to be this powerful. That many times during this period, our rights have been trampled on, and people can say all they want that, yeah, but it's keeping us safe and our lives are safe and whatever. Really? Based on what knowledge? Based on what knowledge? Because the governor isn't being truthful about the infections, nor has the government been truthful about the number of deaths associated with COVID-19. And for the governor to take any credit whatsoever for the state that we're in right now, first of all, it's not a very good state. Secondly, if there has been a curve that has flattened, it's the result of people taking personal responsibility and wanting to live and not wanting to get sick that has caused good things to happen. So for the governor to continue to do bad things to frontliners, to the Catholic faithful, to the Christian faithful, to the Buddhist faithful, whoever, to want more power, to want to criminalize violations of her unilateral orders, to want to institute a curfew, and then to have her staff go and attack people on social media who defy what she says or have a different opinion from her, makes me sick to my stomach. And this really is the time, people, to get loud about the stupidity and the arrogance of this administration, because time and time again they are trying to break what is good about Guam and destroy our democracy that countless of our family and friends have fought for and lost limb and life to defend. Now is the time to say something, and I implore you, Kandit News Group implores you, just as Father Paul Gofikin does, to write to the governor. Even if you don't write to the governor, tag her in a post on Facebook, call your senators and talk smack about the governor, and let them know that you will not stand for this bullshit in our island. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. Our producer, Eric Rosario, says good night as well.